Joined now by Alex Newman, our international correspondent. Alex, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Duke.
Well, this is a tantalizing story to me. You and I spent about 10 years between the two of us, but going up and down the country, talking about Common Core and warning people about big educrats like Bill Gates, who have no educational experience whatsoever, using their billions of dollars that they made on a capitalist system to shut down capitalism, to undermine education, and ultimately to ideologically indoctrinate our kids. And so just when we forgot about Bill Gates and his failed Common Core, now we've got the richest man in the world, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, who is using his billions with a weird obsession with children. He wants to plan preschools to begin the education and the indoctrination program earlier. Talk a little bit about this story.
Yeah, it's like the height of creepiness. I mean, it's like something you could read in The Onion or the Babylon Bee, but you've got this creepy gazillionaire, supposedly the richest man in the world, and he comes out and he says, I'm going to create a national network of preschools. Give me all your children, and we're going to use the same principles that we use as Amazon, an obsession with the customer. And by the way, the customer is your children. So here's Jeff Bezos telling us he's got an obsession with our children, and hand them over, and we are going to educate them. Well, I, for one, think this is incredibly creepy. And Bill Gates has been doing this for well over a decade. Bill Gates jumped in bed with UNESCO, the UN's educational agency. Then he put billions of dollars into Common Core. And at this point, you mention the name Gates to anybody involved in education, teachers, parents, whatever. It's politically and educationally toxic. And so they figure, hey, let's throw out a new billionaire, Jeff Bezos, who, by the way, is a regular attendee at Bilderberg, who's got more data on you than you could possibly imagine, who hates free speech. And let's let him shape the minds of our little children. Frankly, I think it's incredibly creepy, and I wouldn't let my children anywhere near one of these Bezos indoctrination centers that he's planning.
Well, explain how this works, Alex, because, with Bill Gates, what he was basically doing is giving a bunch of money to educrats, fake, superintendent types, not really teachers, feeding them money and letting them create their perfect utopian liberal curriculum and pedagogy. That's what he did. But Bezos seems like he's doing something different. He's up to something else. What does it mean to say that he wants to educate your preschoolers? We're going to throw billions of dollars at this network of preschools all across the country. Give us your kids, and we're going to educate your kids the Amazon way. Now, I've watched enough of the news to realize that you got workers being worked to the bone, being forced to work multiple shifts, getting very little pay for almost round-the-clock busyness, being sanctioned and fined and even fired if their productivity drops off a little bit. Is that what he means by the Amazon way? What is the Amazon way when it comes to educating children?
Well, what he says in his statement is that means they're going to be obsessed with your children, which it's just beyond creepy. But I think what it really means, Duke, beyond the creepy factor of having Jeff Bezos obsessed with my children, just shudder to think about it, is the data, right? Amazon and all these big tech companies, really, they are data brokers. The real big money is from the data, collecting the data, analyzing the data, understanding the data, having the transmission wires through which the data passes. I think that's one of the reasons why Bezos is now going into the rocket field, right? He wants to put the satellites up because the satellites are what's going to transmit the data. And so I think the crucial component of these Montessori-style Bezos preschools that are going to be popping up around the nation is the data. They are going to be gathering endless amounts of data. And there was a real good article about this. It was sent to us by our mutual friend Mary Black in a publication called Wrench in the Gears. And the author there breaks this down, looking at some of the technologies that are now available for gathering the data on the children, the artificial intelligence that's now going to have the ability to process and understand this data through algorithms and so on. It's going to be, in my view, the creepiest techno-utopian disaster that we've ever seen. Everything will be tracked. Their attitudes, their values, their place in the classroom, the way they interact with others. All of it's going to be tracked, and it's going to be part of this big, centrally planned machine. Well, hey, your child will be good for this job. Your child will be good for this job. Your child's a Christian conservative. There's no way you could be a lawyer or a journalist or a teacher. We'll put you scrubbing toilet bowls or something so that you make sure you don't influence anybody whatsoever in your line of work. That's where this is going.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. The two big issues with Bezos are data gathering, using these young kids to compile earlier and earlier and comprehensive records on these kids, and then technocracy. How do you prepare these kids not for career, not for education, not for college, but for Amazon-type work factory lines, right? That's what they're really up to here. After the break, I want to talk to you about why do the left, who hate white males, love white males with billions of dollars. Let's talk about that hypocrisy after the break. So it seems to me, Alex, that, continuing the story that you brought to us about how Amazon's Jeff Bezos is now in the process of creating preschools, hundreds of them across the country, and promising if you send him your kids, they're going to give you the Amazon treatment. We've already decided that has a lot to do with data gathering. That's going to make Bezos even more money. And it's also about preparing your kids for utilitarian forms of work, not necessarily for genuine education. Very socialist if you stop and think about it. But my broader question to you today is this. What is this fascination? What is this fascination with white men if they're billionaires? And I know the answer is going to be money, but the hypocrisy of the left never fails to trouble me. Think about this for a second. Putting Amazon's Jeff Bezos in charge of preschools is kind of like putting, Jeffrey Epstein instead of your kid's birthday party, or putting, how about Joe Biden in charge of a brownie troop? I mean, you don't want these kinds of guys around your little kids. I mean, Bill Gates was creepy enough. He's the creepy old grandfather perving around elementary school kids with Common Core. So talk a little bit, Alex, in your mind, how this fits the larger narrative of the Great Reset of the United States.
Yeah, there's so many things to break down there, Duke. And I think it's worth noting that Jeffrey Epstein was actually buddy-buddy with all these guys, right? Bill Gates was a close friend of Jeffrey Epstein. He's flying around on his pedophile airplane, and who knows what they were up to. And mind you, Bill Gates, unlike a lot of these other perverts like Bill Clinton, Bill Gates actually became buddy-buddy with Jeffrey Epstein after he was convicted of sex trafficking children. Okay, let that sink in. He's flying around on the guy's airplane. Who knows what they're doing? But I think a big part of this hypocrisy is that the left doesn't really hate white males. That's just a means to an end, right? They need a figure to demonize. And they figure, hey, Christian, Western civilization, free enterprise, these types of things, let's associate those with white men, and then let's demonize white men by making them allegedly responsible for every evil that's ever afflicted the planet. But we'll turn the other way when it's our guys like Jeff Bezos, like Bill Gates. And so Bill Gates has got a huge amount of money. So does Jeff Bezos. So did a lot of these other guys. But I think they need to understand, too, that the forces they are unleashing are eventually going to come for them, too. I thought it was ironic that these left-wing lunatics set up a giant guillotine outside of Jeff Bezos' house. And so there's a sense where these white men who have billions of dollars, they think of themselves very much as puppet masters, like we're the ones directing the disorder. But what you see once their wishes come to fruition, and we saw this in the French Revolution, is it gets out of control. And the bloodshed is everywhere, and they start turning on each other. I mean, we saw this in the Bolshevik Revolution, too. Leon Trotsky, who was financed by the Wall Street bankers along with Vladimir Lenin to go overthrow the Tsar in the Soviet Union, Leon Trotsky ended up with an ice pick through the side of his head in Mexico City. And a lot of these goobers that are trying to unleash this revolution to undermine Western Christian civilization in America, they're going to end up, metaphorically speaking or physically, with an ice pick in the side of their heads by the hands of their own comrades and colleagues. They need to understand that. But I'm so glad we're talking about this. It's important to point out the hypocrisy.
Well, one of the things that I think is absolutely clear that you hinted at is that all of this anti-white male animus isn't really about hating white males. It's allowing really rich white males to control a narrative, right? They're the good white males, the Mark Cubans who banned the national anthem at their basketball games, the Jeff Bezos, who's generously going to spend from his almost $1 trillion capacity to build all these preschools for you moms and dads. That what all of this animus directed at white males is across the culture is white males like you and me, right? The traditional, hardworking, Judeo-Christian background guys, the guys who believe in liberty, voted for Donald Trump, believe in securing our borders. That's the white male you're supposed to hate. And all of this is orchestrated not by black radicals, but by very rich, wealthy liberal whites like people Gates and Bezos.
That's exactly right. And when you look at the funding, and we've done this a lot in the New American Magazine, when you break down the funding for these supposed, racial justice groups, it's always coming from the same cast of suspects, these super wealthy, rich white men who are really, and I mean, the Sunrise Movement is a great example. These are some of the ones who stirred up all the riots over the summer. Their top funders are the Rockefellers, right? The epitome of the white male. And yet, we don't talk about that, right? And when you look at the people that they hate, the left and the establishment, they hate just as much or even more a black conservative Christian, because they expose the lie that this is about, race or gender or whatever. It's absolutely disgusting, and these people need to be exposed.
Yeah, you wouldn't send your kids, mom and dad, to learn at the feet of people like Epstein and Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. Certainly don't send your kids to their ridiculous preschools. Alex, thank you for your great report today.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Most of you know our show is being censored by big tech.
While this makes it harder to meet the cost of producing the show, that's part of it. It also demonstrates that we must be having tremendous success, or they wouldn't bother to try to shut us down.
If you like hearing truth and common sense with a love for freedom, please join the Patriot Club with a one-time $99 tax-deductible donation. And you'll get this sweet vessel of joy as part of a thank you for joining the Patriot Club.
Etched with the American flag and the words freedom never tasted so good.
All you have to do is visit patriotclub.us and become a Patriot member today.
That's patriotclub.us. Thank you and God bless.